So, if you're an early stage founder, you know the pressure. You've got to raise capital and you've got to do it fast. But here's the thing, you grab the wrong kind of funding agreement and you could be signing away control before you've even gotten off the ground. So how do you make the right choice?
And that really is the choice, isn't it? Is the goal just to get cash in the bank as fast as possible? Or are you thinking bigger? Are you thinking about how the documents you sign today are going to shape your company's entire future? Let's break down what's really at stake here.
To deal with this problem, the startup world came up with two main tools, the convertible note and the SAFE. Now, they both help you raise money without having to set a firm valuation right away, but trust me, underneath the surface, they are totally different animals.
Okay, so first things first, let's get the definition straight. Because if you don't understand the fundamental structure of a convertible note versus a SAFE, you're gonna miss the hidden risks.
All right, the convertible note. You gotta remember one thing. At its core, it's a loan. It's debt. An investor hands you money now, and that loan is supposed to turn into shares of your company later. But notice those two other key features, a maturity date and interest. We're going to circle back to those for sure because they are a huge deal.
Okay, now for the SAFE. And the name really gives it away, right? Simple agreement for future equity. It was literally invented by Y Combinator to be a better, more founder-friendly deal. And the key takeaway? It is not a loan. There's no debt, no ticking clock with a maturity date, and no interest piling up. It's just a straightforward promise. You get shares later. That's it.
Okay, so that's the textbook definition. But, the devil's always in the details. The real differences, the ones that can really bite you, are hidden just below the surface. Let's dig in and look at the risks and the trade-offs.
And really, it all boils down to this one massive difference, debt versus no debt. Think about it. A convertible note, because it's a loan, creates this power dynamic. Even if your investor is your best friend, the fact that they could ask for their money back creates this low-key psychological pressure. It's always in the back of your mind. A SAFE, that whole dynamic just evaporates. It's not on the balance sheet as debt, so that pressure is just gone.
And this is what I mean by pressure. A convertible note starts a silent countdown the second you sign it. You're building, you're working, but in the back of your head, that 18 or 24-month clock is ticking. And as you get closer to that maturity date, guess what happens? Your investor's leverage goes way up. If you haven't raised your next round by then, well, you're in a really tough spot. You have to go back to the table and you are not holding the best cards.
Okay, let's put some real numbers to this to see how it plays out. Let's say you raise a pretty typical $200,000 on a convertible note. The money hits your bank account, you're off to the races, you start building. But remember, that other little detail we talked about, interest? And boom, here's what that interest actually does. That 200 grand you took, well, after 2 years with a typical interest rate, it converts as if the investor actually put in $224,000. What does that mean for you? It means they get more of your company and you get diluted more than you probably expected. It's like this sneaky hidden cost that a SAFE just doesn't have.
And it's not just about the interest either. Convertible notes can be packed with these other little landmines, these control triggers. If you hit that maturity date without raising more money, suddenly the investor might have the power to force a conversion at a super low price, or they can demand their money back just to get more leverage over you. They might even wrangle board observation rights out of it. Things can get messy fast.
So you might be thinking this is all just boring legal stuff, right? Wrong. This has a huge real-world impact on your company. Let's talk about how these choices affect your cap table and your ability to raise money down the road. This quote from the source material just nails the whole philosophy behind the SAFE. A SAFE is an investor betting on you. You're in the driver's seat. You decide when the time is right to raise again, not some date on a calendar. The investor gets to share in the win without trying to steer the ship.
Okay, to be fair, SAFEs aren't perfect. There's this thing called stacking SAFEs. It's pretty common. You raise a little money on a SAFE here, a little more there. The problem is, when you finally do a priced round, they all convert at the same time, and whoa, the dilution can be way more than you thought. But, and this is a huge but, you were still the one in control. You made those calls. It wasn't forced on you by a deadline.
Now let's compare that to the convertible note scenario. When it's time for that next round, and you've got a bunch of different note holders, all with different interest rates, different terms, it can turn into what the source calls a miniature cap table war. Seriously, every investor is fighting for their own best deal, using their leverage, and you're stuck in the middle trying to manage the chaos. Okay, so with all that on the table, how in the world do you actually choose? Let's break down a simple way to think about it so you can make the right decision for your company.
Honestly, it pretty much comes down to where you are with your company. If you're super early, maybe you haven't even built the product yet. Especially if you're in something complex like deep tech where you have no idea how long things will take, the safe is your best friend. It gives you that breathing room. Now, are there times a note might make sense? Sure, maybe with a specific strategic investor who wants more defined terms, but for most founders just starting out, that flexibility from a safe is everything.
All right, let's put it all together in a final showdown. Note versus safe. On one side, you've got the convertible note. It's debt, it has that ticking clock of a maturity date, interest is piling up, and there's a real risk of losing control. Founder flexibility? Pretty low. On the other side, the safe. Not debt, no maturity date, no interest. The risk of losing control is super low, and your flexibility as a founder is way, way higher. I mean, when you see it laid out like that, the choice becomes pretty clear, doesn't it?
At the end of the day, it all comes down to this one simple question. Is the money you're raising going to build your company, or is it going to bind it? Are you picking a tool that gives you the freedom to run, or one that ties your hands to a schedule and pressures that you can't control? For most founders who want to stay in charge of their own destiny, the answer is obvious. You got to pick the tool that protects your control, your momentum, and your vision for what you're trying to build.